What do you make of the tournament, Jack? I mean, I would run a skill testing question if anybody could name those four first seeds. I think Purdue and Auburn and Alabama were two of them, but we haven't heard hide nor hair of them for a long time now, have we?
No, it's crazy to think about the fact that the top 12 seeds, the 1, 2, and 3 line, are all gone. And here we are at the Final Four, and you have a 4, 2 5s, and what is it, a 9
Nine.
remaining. It's insane. And then I was reading something this morning. The top 10, AP poll going into the season, not one team is in the Final Four. So, I mean, like, how bizarre is it? But, there's two reasons for it now. I mean, number one, you have the transfer portal. So we live in a world now of free agency, and it's free agency on a yearly basis. It's not even a guy that has in the professional game, maybe has a 3, 4 year contract, and then they put themselves out there. So that's number one. And number two is name, image, likeness.
Mm-hmm.
That has been an incredible transformation of college athletics. There were always programs that were very creative, let's just say, in terms of how they operated. And you go, well, how'd that guy end up there? And there was just a lot of different things that took place. But now everything's out on the table. And these certain schools, like I look at the University of Miami, people have criticized them. No, what they've done is legal. They've embraced what the rules are now. Whether you like it or not, they've embraced it, and they've been very creative in terms of using the ability with high-powered boosters to finance this stuff and for players to be paid for their services. So, again, I coached in an era and I coached at a school that I had a player say to me one time, "Hey, coach, why don't we get hooked up like those guys at the other school?" I said, "Look, Reggie, if I were going to cheat, I'd sure as hell get a better play than you. Okay, so let's be real here." Well, we could, number one, I wasn't going to be that guy doing it. And number two, we didn't have the money to do it anyway.
Right. Yeah.
But now, if you are at a Power Five conference, you better get with the program, and you better have, a fund set aside, and you better know how to operate your salary cap. And it's really interesting now. And this is fascinating to me, and it'll be intriguing as we go forward. Will we, in college athletics, will they add someone who's kind of like a full-time general manager or player acquisition person who spends the entire time not even dealing with the on-court, in between the line stuff, but someone who's got their finger on the pulse 24/7, 365 in terms of player acquisition, player retention. What are we going to do in terms of what are we paying this guy next year to keep him? It's fascinating stuff. And my coaching friends that are in it, tell me it's the Wild West. It is literally the Wild West.
Well, I kind of lost interest in the tournament, to tell you the truth. And I mean, it's going back a lot of years, but Jack, when I was living in Vegas and UNLV was a strong program, guys stayed for 4 years. You got a chance to see the program develop over a period of time. You got a chance to relate to the athletes. And now the good ones, the ones that make a difference, they're all one and done. Are we going to see that change in any way, shape, or form because these guys can now make a bit of money at college?
Yeah, I think you're going to see players have options. So now, if you have the ability to stay in college and they're going to pay you $500,000 a year to stay, why would you go to the G League? If you're not a first round pick and you're not getting guaranteed money, why would you be crazy enough to go to the G League when you're not getting, and at the same thing, Europe, so I think it opens up a lot of possibilities now. Again, it's player empowerment, and agents are part of it, that now you have a lot of options in terms of, hey, look, if I'm not a surefire first round pick, maybe it's in my best interest to stay another year. where I have a car deal. I'm getting paid X number of dollars. It's legal. The NCAA can't touch me. And why wouldn't I? Now, so that it's going to create the opportunity for schools to maybe, not definitely, but maybe hold on to guys a little longer. On the other hand, I agree wholeheartedly with what you say, because it's a frustration I have, is that in terms of what we do for a living and talking and storylines and creating a narrative, it's harder to sell it because the guys are coming and going.
Every year is a different guy.
Like I look at the two schools I coached at Fordham and Niagara, mid-major, Division I, traditional old-time Catholic schools where, we have people at both places, in their late 70s, 80s, that still come to games, and they remember the quote unquote good old days. And the one thing that keeps them coming is the storyline of that young man developing from his freshman year to his senior year, getting his degree, senior night, all those really cool things.
Yeah.
And that's all gone now. And to me, it's taken some of that charm away from it.
So I'm not sure that between both of you talking about it, I'm not sure this is good for college basketball. Is it?
What is good?
The name, image, and likeness. I'm not sure in the end it's good for the sport.
I think it's good if it keeps kids in school.
But
if it keeps a good basketball player there, past his freshman year, where, he doesn't declare for the NBA draft, I think that's good. That's good for the college basketball fan. It gives me, as a fan of whatever school, a chance to watch this kid develop for a couple, 3 years at least. It's maybe not 4, but
isn't it going to be, Jack? And you kind of hinted at it. Isn't it going to be a world of have and have nots teams?
Yeah, there's going to be some haves and have nots, and I mean,
literally, I have that anyway, Jack.
Yeah, but I have a good friend of mine, Mark Schmidt, who's the head coach at St. Bonaventure, and I think he's done an absolutely sensational job in his time at Bonnie's. And, obviously, if you've ever been to Ole in New York and you're coaching in the Atlantic 10 Conference,
that's big, man.
Kids don't grow up every day saying, man, it's my dream to play for the Bonnies. Now, Bob Lanier was a great player and all that stuff, but that's 1970. That's a hard job. He lost his entire starting lineup last year. He had a great NCAA team, and he had the whole team coming back, and his entire starting lineup got wiped out by NIL because other schools had more money to pay than he did.
Right.
And it's absolutely bizarre. So do I think it's affecting what the college experience was like, should be like for a young person? Yeah. On the other hand, it's not what I like. It's what is good for the player. And what's good for the player is they're saying, hey, money in my pocket, and their family wants that too. Do I think they get cheated on the experience of actually being a normal student athlete and growing and maturing and allowing the experience to help nurture you as a young man? I used to always say these 4 years affect how you do the next 40. And I think that part of it now is gone. It's almost like your job on a yearly basis is to assemble a team. The word program rarely exists anymore because if I'm not paying the guy, he's out enough, and everyone's tampering behind my back while the guy's playing for me in that current season. Mm-hmm. And it's there's no ethics. And, but it is what it is. And that's so, you look at Jim Boeheim, Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams, a much younger guy in Jay Wright at Villanova, still has his fastball. And all those guys are like, I'm done. I don't have the stomach for this. Whereas Rick Pitino, who just turned 70, just is now back in the spotlight again. Now is going to coach St. John's. And Rick Pitino is one of the great college coaches of all time. Rick is a great coach. He's not a good coach, not a very good coach. Rick is a great coach. And he will get the dirt under his fingernails. He will outwork people. He will get after it. And he's willing to embrace this. Whereas a lot of other, like Jim Larinaga, who is he? Jim 73. I mean, I know these guys. I know, I know Jim and Rick. These guys all very, very well. And Jim still has his fastball, and he's in the Final Four. He's embracing it. So a lot of it comes down to how you feel about it and what's your stomach for. But I think you're not going to see as many coaches coach into their 60s because it's ripe for burnout and it's just ripe for unhappiness.